Welcome back to iCanMod. I'm Tobias, and today we are going to do part 3 of our Clean This series, and we're going to talk about how to break down a PC ready for deep cleaning. So let's take a look at it. All right, so you've decided that your computer's way too dirty, or it's been, a couple of years or whatever it is that it has been since you've actually properly cleaned your computer, and you need to take it apart. But for those of you that have bought a pre-built system, you didn't actually see it get put together. So taking it apart can be a little bit tricky because you're not going to know what's what. So what we're going to do today is literally we are going to just pull everything apart. I will talk a little bit about each component, but this is preparing your computer to deep clean each individual component. So we're just going to get everything broken down, take everything out, and then we'll lay it all out and we'll explain all the bits and pieces of this process. So let's get to breaking this computer down. Now, before I do that, actually, I have taken the front glass cover off. That's the only thing I've done. It was the light was reflecting and it was weird with the lighting that I've got at the moment. So I just took that off. So normally there's a panel here which is one screw. It could have multiple on yours. There is a back panel that we've got to take off. But first, let's get what we can taken out of the system, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're pulling this apart now. Things that you might need here, we're going to look at, depending on how dirty the system is, as I said in our first video, our black nitrile gloves, okay? This computer is really clean, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to wear them today. I've got some side cutters to cut my zip ties so I can get all my cabling out, and then also my iFixit, because I'll need to undo screws and things like that to get the motherboard out, the graphics card, stuff like that, and the fans. So here's the back of the computer, and I like to do things in a specific order. And the first thing I like to do is get all the external covers or like locking mechanisms off. So this is an NZXT 510. So there's 2 screws here for the back cover, so that just literally pops out like that. I'm just going to put that over there. Sorry for the bad cameras, like usual, I'm by myself. And then there is a locking mechanism here. So there's 2 screws here, and this will stop you from taking out the graphics card or any stuff you've got attached to the motherboard, PCIe slotted stuff. So we'll take that one out and we set them to one side because we are going to put those back in. So the cover's off, the back cover's off. First thing we're going to do is remove what we can. So I'm just going to grab my screwdriver. If you've got an iFixit like myself, you're looking for Phillips, a small Phillips screwdriver. And I'll keep this because it's going to hold all the screws. Let's, well, of course, unplug it first. Don't want to unscrew it before we unplug it. So there's 2 screws holding this in because it is a dual slot card. Whoop. So I'll put them there. All right, now, removing a graphics card. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Let me see if I can zoom in. Just where it's actually connected to the board in the PCIe slot, there is a little tab that you can push down. I don't know if you heard that, but it just sort of popped. Once that pop happens, it should just be a matter of wiggling it out. And there's the graphics card. Now I have the box for this thing. Sorry. So I'm actually sending this back for warranty. So we'll slot that back in the box nice and clean. And then that can go back. All right. Next, we've got a lot of things going on. So we're just going to go logically now. Most people would tend to rush in and take out the cooler. I don't do that. What I start to do is unplug everything from the board. So we've got our graphics PCIe cables, and what I'm trying to do is just pull everything through, get it out of my way without damaging anything. So there's originally there was 2 SSDs here. They went into my new computer. So those were the cables that were left over from it. Now we can start taking plugs out of the board. So I try to start with the bottom ones, get them slid out underneath behind. There's the audio. So you'll see them just here, they're wiggling there. I'm just pulling all those off, getting those all disconnected, pulled out. And then the front panel connector is the last one along the bottom. So I get that one out. And we can slide that out down the bottom too. So now all of our cables are removed. In actual fact, we'll get rid of these just to get them out of our way. All right. Another one there. And then our SATA cables. Now, SATA cables, be careful. They do have a little, well, they should have a little release clip. Most do. Make sure you've got that depressed before you start yanking it out. Well, I had a lot of hard drives in here. And then we can pull those through. Now, 24-pin power, the big one. That one's out. Slide that through. Okay. And then we've got a fan header at the top here. Get that out. All right, so the last, sorry, I've moved around to get a better shot here. The last cable that we need to remove from the motherboard, second last after I pull this fan header out, because there's a fan plug here, which is going to the back fan, that's out, is our 8-pin power supply. There's only one on this board, sometimes there's 2, there could be 3 depending on what you're doing. Where did I put my screwdriver? But as I was saying, because of my hands, I actually can't get to that. So what I need to do is drop this fan, which is fine because we've got to take it out anyway. So we'll drop that top fan out and we should be good to go to get the last of that out. Make sure you support the fan once you've got that. And so now that the fan's out, you can see there's a lot more room in there. So I can actually get my hands in here, and I'm going to change over and just slide in and just wiggle it. And once it's released, push it back through the hole that it came through. And now that's all the cables done. So what we're ready to do is I've got to get this fan out. While we're here, we might unscrew this front bracket. I'm just going to put all the parts to one side for now, just so that we can then talk about them later. Now this bracket has some fans attached on it. Let me get these cables to slide through. Come on. One, that's 2. All right, back fan. Let's see how that NZXT fan out. Cool. So what we're essentially ready to do now is we can pull out the motherboard, but I like to lay it flat when I do that. So what I'm going to do first, let me just turn this around, and you're going to see all the cables. Many cables, and they're all zip tied down. So we're going to get our trusty pliers. I did say I was going to wear gloves, but I decided not to because this thing's way too clean and it would just be a waste. Now you see why I get sharp ones, because that really was in there tight, and now there's no chance of me cutting the wire. So that's that. Luckily on the NZXT case, it's got built-in Velcro straps, so we just need to undo those. And that will release these wires here. That's good. It is a bit messy doing a tear down. Oh, there goes the SATA cable. Actually, we might try and get those out of their spot. So we got 1, 2, 3, I think there's 5 from memory, 4, and 5. So that's 5 SATA cables. Get them out the way. All right. So these are all the cables that come from the front panel. So I'm just sort of putting them out the way at the moment. Everything else that should be left should be cables connected to our power supply, which is a great power supply, EVGA 750G2. And it has done me well for this build. So let's just turn this around. So depending on the model and the case, the model of the power supply, the model of the case is going to depend on how your power supply actually comes out. Some will have a bracket which will have a couple of screws that you undo. Some will have, like in this case, you just screw the four screws into the actual power supply itself. So this one, we just need to undo these 4 screws. Alright, so that can go in there. And then, we just tilt this to one side. It should just be a matter of sliding that bad boy out. Now, if your cables are all filthy and dirty, I would recommend just disconnecting them all, giving them a clean, wipe down. So we're going to do that. The motherboard one. That leaves us with that. And a bunch of wires. All right, so now it's time to get the motherboard out. I don't have a full overview camera, so I'm trying to give you the best view that I've got. Now, in this motherboard, there are screws. You can't see my hand there, but there's one in each corner, one here, one in the, that's a guide. But anywhere that there's a screw, you want to get that screw out, and you want to be careful, because obviously the screws are all around different resistors and chips and solder points, and so try not to damage any of those, because then we're going to have a problem. Once we get to the new house, going to have much better view overhead. I'm planning a 3-camera system, so a front on, a side on, and an overview or an overhead camera. So it will make doing these videos or build videos where I want to show you what I'm actually doing a lot easier. Right, so now it should just be a matter of tilting it and sliding it out, and that's the motherboard out. Now, put this on, I normally have, I keep all my boxes, so I put it on like a motherboard box or something. I wouldn't put it on a metal surface because it'll get damaged. You've got the standoffs here. If you're going to be reusing the case, you don't really need to pull them out, and I probably wouldn't if I were you. I'd just leave them there. Okay, so as you can see, it's empty. There's nothing left in it except for the front I/O cables, or the I/O panel. Look, if you're going to, I've seen people use water to clean these out. If you take care of this properly and you don't have to, remove years of grime, you won't need to wash it out with water. And I personally don't, that's my personal opinion, but it can be done. So if you are going to use water, you're going to have to remove all the front panel stuff as well, but we're not going to do that today. The last thing to pop out is this I/O shield, and that goes with your motherboard. So I'll put that over there. Now, I'm actually not rebuilding in this case for a little while because I'm actually going to completely change all the components. So I'm going to put it back to its factory set, like as it came in the box. One last thing I wanted to mention is we had this bracket that the fans are screwed into from the front fans. I'm going to unscrew those fans and put the bracket back in as well to the case, so we'll keep the fans separate. I've got the boxes for the fans, so we'll get them all nice and tidied up as well, and I've got the original thumb screws. So we're going to take out the iCanMod test screws and we're going to put the originals back in. All right, so that's the case all broken down. So we can now, I've got the box over there, so we can get this out of the way. I'm going to get all the parts set up, and then we'll take a look at everything that I've pulled out of the case. Okay, so now that you've broken down your computer, you're going to have your main components here. And as you can see, I've got them all sitting on the desk. Now there's a few here that we are going to, we're making videos of to clean. So let's go through them. You've got the 4 fans. Now you could have 4 fans in yours, you could have 6, you could have 12. It just depends on your case. So they're nice and neatly there. The power supply, so our EVGA power supply and all the cables are here as well. I'll be putting this back in the box once I've shown you how to sort of dust it out and clean it. And in the EVGA box, which is just over there, there is a bag to keep all the cables. So I'll be putting them away in there because I'm not rebuilding this computer. We're just going to clean the components. One thing I did find and I forgot to put back in was the hard drive tray for the case. It's got to be put in and screwed in from the bottom. So I'll do that later, but that's fine. Just remember if you've got something like that. The motherboard with the CPU cooler and the CPU cooler fan. I'm just going to put that back on there for now so I don't lose it. But I'll show you how to take the cooler off when we do the motherboard clean video. All coolers are different, but the principle is pretty much the same. All motherboards, how they do it. You got your IO shield there as well, so we'll keep that. The graphics card you saw, I put it in the box. That's going back for warranty, so that's already been dusted out and cleaned, but I have another graphics card to work on, so that's fine. And that's pretty much it. Everything else, all the other cables are in the box. The SATA cables are here, but you've now got your computer broken down. Now you may have other components in your computer like capture cards or sound cards or things like that. All you need to do is make sure that you see how it's connected in and logically remove it. So whether it needs to be unscrewed, whether it needs to be unplugged, if the plug has a clip or a tag on it, you need to push before you pull it out. And just remember to do that. You don't need to sort of reset tags and stuff. The only other thing we could pull out is the RAM, but we'll do that in the motherboard video as well because it's just simply popping the tabs and they pop out, but that's it. So that brings us to the end of case breakdown for Clean This series. In the next video, we're probably going to look at doing the motherboard first. And then we'll go through each component from there in individual videos. And then hopefully by the time the series is done, I'll be ready to reassemble this PC and we'll rebuild it. And it'll be another build video for you guys. But as always, it's been a pleasure having you along the ride with this. Hope this helps you when you're trying to clean your computer, and if you are following along with the series, I hope this really helps you, maintain and give you a better idea of how to maintain your computer and the safe way to do it. But as we always say around here at iCanMod, keep building and keep learning.